Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to dive deep into why addiction is such a huge part of my fitness journey. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. We are going to discuss every aspect of what I have done and dealt with in my life and why we are where we are and why I beat myself up so badly when I do drink and whenever I do waver back. And we're just gonna really get into it. So it might be a long video. I'm not sure. I have nothing written down. I am just going to speak from the heart and my mind and memories. And I have my hot chocolate with some chai and some protein milk in here. So make sure you grab yours and we'll get into it. Okay, so to start things off, I came from a family that, as far as I know, has never really dealt with addiction problems. My grandma has been a lifelong smoker and she still smokes to this day, chain smoker. My other grandpa on the other side, he smoked, but then he quit. And then years later, he developed lung cancer. But my family has always been like very casual with drinking. You know, it was never a problem. My mom, she's always been the person that, you know, she'll go to the bar occasionally when a cool band is playing. She'll have a couple beers, but never to get drunk. She said that she has some trauma from when she was younger, so she has never dealt with addiction issues. My dad never dealt with substance issues. I remember there was a time when I was growing up when we had like some wine coolers in the fridge, when he was going through a lot of issues with his wrists being broken multiple times. I know he had painkillers, but I remember he never finished them. And we'll get to that too. But it seemed like he never had issues with it. My family were never pot smokers on either side. It wasn't anything that was really in my blood to become addicted to things. For some reason, I have always been a very addictive person. That's the backstory with my family. It's not like I came from a family of addiction and problems. Like I said, my dad never would finish his prescriptions when he had a lot of his like broken bones growing up. And I remember I was maybe, well, he was still alive, so maybe like 12, because he passed away before I turned 15. So, and it was a little bit before that. So yeah, maybe 13-ish. I remember I was like feeling really emotional. I was having a lot of like weird teen issues. For some reason, I had a really happy life, but I had issues inside of myself where I would close down and always feel like people were not actually there for me. People like didn't actually like me. And I've still struggled with that as I've gotten older too, but not nearly as bad as it used to be. And there was a time where I took some of his Vicodins that were like literally multiple years old, so old. And I took some and I crushed them up and I snorted them. I don't even know where it came from to do that at all. I could not tell you where I got the thought to stuff them up my nose versus like even just taking them. Like we all know pills are a bad thing, but and like people can get addicted to them and they get you high. But I don't remember ever seeing anything or hearing anything from people about, oh yeah, you can crush them up and snort them. I don't remember that. It just came to me, basically. And so I went through a little phase where, you know, like it was like a week long where I would be like, oh, I want more, I want more. They were 500 milligrams, so they really didn't do much, which is awful to say that now, but they didn't. I remember it was mostly just powder and a lot of Tylenol in it. So it didn't really do much to me. So that was the beginning of that. And I remember around that same time, I went to my mom's house and she didn't have any prescription painkillers. So I ended up taking a ton of aspirin. I didn't know that aspirin was a blood thinner. And I remember I took a bunch of those before school one day, and I'm in the middle of social studies, and I'm just like this. I'm like I feel sick, I feel awful, like I'm about to pass out. So I tell the teacher I need to go home. She calls my mom. My mom says, "Okay, you can go home." And I remember I went and laid down in my bed because I felt so sick, and I was laying there sleeping, and I like my body, my soul, my insides lifted out of my body, and I was like floating over myself, looking at myself. And then I remember my mom came in, and like it sucked back inside of me, and I woke up, and I slowly started feeling better. I never told her what the problem was. I didn't tell her that I took a ton of aspirin trying to like go numb. So that was kind of the beginning of me experimenting with things. It was after my dad passed away. So it was like maybe when I was 15 years old. I feel like it was pretty soon around then. I had a sleepover with one of my friends. She came over, and she was friends with a bunch of the guys that I was into, and they had invited us over to their house in the evening. So we snuck out that night, went down to hang out with them, and I smoked a cigarette for the first time. I was afraid to smoke weed, so I didn't do that, but I smoked a cigarette, and I remember not coughing. And everybody applauded me. They were all so proud of me. They're like, "Wow, you're a natural born smoker. Like, you handled that so well." Because of that feeling of praise that they were giving me, I was obsessed with it. I really liked it. I never could get my hands on it. And my mom has the nose of a dog. Like, she can sniff anything out. And so I remember the next day, for a while there, "Why do you smell like smoke? Why is it smoky? What's going on?" And it was like literally because I was sneaking out and smoking with my friends or in a house that had smoke in it. And, "Oh, I don't know, mom. I think it's just from my clothes. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know." That was a really tough time. It was bad. She was always mad at me, and I was always mad at her. So, yes, that was the beginning of things. And then I turned 16. No, no, yeah, no. It was after I turned 15 because it was that summer that I turned 15. It was that summer my dad died. That's crazy. That's crazy. Hold on. Time for some hot chocolate. This is when the addiction starts. So, leading up to this, it was all just experimental things when my friends invited me over and whatever. That summer that I turned 15, the summer my dad died, my mom didn't know how to parent us after losing our other parent. She was afraid that if she was too harsh on us with rules, that she would lose us as well. They had been divorced for a long time, but they were still really good friends. And she didn't want to lose us. She didn't want us to freak out. Like, she knew obviously that it was a very emotional time and we were early teenagers. She kind of was the yes man. She kind of just let us run the place. She kind of like, whenever I would ask, "Oh, can I go hang out with so and so? Can I go hang out with so and so?" "Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Are you sure you want to? You've been out for 2 nights now." "Yeah, mom, I'm sure everything's fine. It's all good." And so she'd say yes, against her common sense. She knew that things weren't going right, but I don't think she knew how to approach it and how to handle it without us freaking out. I was a really difficult teenager. I was very emotional. I would freak out about everything. I was mean. She had to call the cops on me before because I was just horrible. I was a really bad teenager. And she just, she didn't know what to do. Like, I think her hands were tied. Summer I was 15. And I went to this party. It was somebody's graduation party. So there had been this guy that I had messaged on Facebook. I'm pretty sure he was another local guy in my town, older than me, but I didn't know how much older. And we had been like talking back and forth. And so that night, I told him, like, hey, like, if you want, you can come pick me up from this party. Like, we can hang out or whatever. So we did. We hung out and stayed the whole night together. It was fun. I mean, obviously we had a good time together. Nothing happened, like no drugs or anything was done that night. We were both drinking though. And things just kind of blossomed into a relationship and whatnot. He was like 22 years old or something like that, and I was 15, so that's great. My mom didn't know how old he was for a long time. And then things kept progressing and progressing. I was hanging out with him more and more and more. And then my high school best friend and I would go over there and hang out with him and some of his friends together too. We would always notice that the guys would go into the bathroom together. I'm like, that's weird, right? Like something weird's going on in there. Found out that they were doing pills together. And it was kind of a little bit of a argument, but not bad because I liked him so much that I didn't want to do anything that would make him mad and not want to be with me. So that I was learning to be a pushover, to not lose the guy, no matter how bad he was. Like, I didn't want to lose him because he's so nice. So dumb. So one day I go over there and I say, like, I really want to do this with you. I just want to try it because I want to know why you like this so much and why you do this. And he didn't want me to at first. Like, no, like, I don't want, to get you started on anything. I don't want this to happen. Like, no, it's fine. Like, I just want to try it. I just want to see. So he crushed up some Vicodin and, we did it together and it felt so good. Like really good. The whole everything that we were doing that day was just heightened. It felt amazing. You just stayed in bed together and, then you do a line and, whatever else comes next happened and it was good. So I associated doing a bad thing with the feeling of feeling good. And slowly it turned into him giving me maybe one or two to take back home with me so that when I didn't get to see him for a couple days, I still had some to do. And then it turned into him giving me more, us doing more together and more and more and more and more. When we didn't have any Vicodins, we would switch over to Percocets. When we didn't have any Percocets, we would switch over to methadones. We would do basically any type of addicting pill that we could find at the time. It's a small town. These doctors were prescribing these people so many pills, but there's also so many people that do pills in that town that if you didn't get to them first, they sold it to other people. And then you're stuck with like finding the next thing. There was a time a couple years later that nobody had any pills anywhere. We were broke because we were spending all of our money on pills and weed, that we ended up trying out heroin. To me, it wasn't anything too different than anything else that we had. I remember like I would be going to work and I'd have my little drug kit and I would take it with me and fill it up. And, usually it was pills that would go into it, but, that for that week or whatever that we had the heroin, he'd put it in the little cellophane for me and I would just do little bumps of that all throughout work. I was very open about it with most people. Everybody that I worked with knew that I had my drug kit. Everybody knew that I had to go to the bathroom and why I was going to the bathroom. My boss, one of my bosses at the time, after a while, she was giving them to me and I would give some to her and we would trade back and forth and, whatever. She would swallow them though. I would snort them. So that was the only difference. But I looking at her though, I'm like, wow, so she's a mom, she's a manager. she looks very put together. Like, you would never in a million years imagine that this chick is addicted to pills. And so that gave me hope that, look at that. Like, more people are doing it than you could ever imagine. Everybody probably does it. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that bad. It was bad. It's so bad. So, this whole time we're, trying all these different drugs. We're smoking weed the whole time, drinking a little bit, but not that much. And this went on for 3 years, over and over, every single day, all day long, busting up lines, doing more, busting up some more. Wow, yeah. Really great times. Like, it was, yeah, like, thinking back, I haven't really thought about it too much to this extent like I am now. And I'm having flashbacks, and like my back's starting to get sweaty because I remember how good it felt, and the things that, you would do. Like, you'd be driving down, your boyfriend and you driving down to have a vacation weekend, and it's going to be amazing in this big city, and he brought Coke and our pills, and we're just going to have a whole party weekend, and it's going to be so good and so fun and amazing. So he'd be driving, and I'd be, in the passenger side, being the passenger princess, and I'd have our little mirror and be busting them up as we went along, and just that feeling of being connected to each other was so addicting. Yeah. He started working out of state because that's where his job sent him. So I stayed back, and there was this guy, older guy, who found out what I was into, because the boss that I knew did it, that was the mom and everything, she had told him, because that's where she got a lot of hers from. And he, hit me up, and we talked and stuff. And he's like, hey, I'll give you a massage. You don't even have to give me a massage. I'll give you a massage, and I'll give you these pain pills too. I'll give you a ton of them. I'll give you more than you could ever imagine. I'm like, my boyfriend's out of town. Otherwise, he'd be pissed. I can get a bunch of free pills out of this. Like, yeah, absolutely. It's just a massage. It's not even a big deal. So I went over to his house, and he did that. And I took home bags. Like, I'm not kidding you, bags of pills. There was Adderall, there was Vicodin, and there was another one, but I don't remember what it was. Maybe Oxys? I don't remember. Anyways, what he ended up talking me into was, if I wanted more, then, I'd let him, like, do the thing. And it was so easy because this is so messed up. I never tell anybody about this ever. And here I am telling the whole internet. He, like, it was easy because it didn't last long at all, like 30 seconds, if that. So I'm like, oh, there we go. I got, 300 extra pills for 30 seconds of me doing nothing. Like, duh, no brainer, easy. And so that was kind of my breaking point, where I realized this is bad shit. Like, I'm starting to sell my body for this addiction. And if my boyfriend finds out, he's going to throw me against the wall, and my mom's going to end up finding out and calling the cops again. And then I'm going to lie to the cops again and say, oh, nothing's happening. It's fine. Nothing, no problems here. As it did multiple times in our 3-year relationship. When he got back from working out of state, he wanted to begin to, like, make a move down to Indiana. I'll just say it, down to Indiana. And I was like, okay, yeah, like, I'm dying to get out of this small town. Like, let's go do it. Let's try it. So I went down with him, and I went exploring a little bit while he was working. And I went to this mall, walked around, and I decided I would get my nails done because I had nothing else to do. So my nail tech, some nice Asian dude, I think it was the first time that I ever had a man working on my hands. Him and I were talking, and I was very honest with him about things. I'm like, I'm feeling a little bit reluctant about moving here because I don't know anybody and things aren't good right now. So I'm nervous about moving here and him and I being the only ones together. And he validated all of that and said, if you have a bad relationship now, moving away from everybody that loves you and knows you is going to be really bad and you're going to end up in a worse situation and whatever. So that hit home and I called my best friend, high school best friend, and she drove all the way down there and picked me up the following day while he was at work again. I packed up all my stuff and I left with her. We stopped and got our tattoos together. Hers is on her ankle, mine's on my wrist. And we just drove away. Of course I had pills, so I did pills all the way up. She did them with me, of course. We get back home and I'm calling my mom. Mom, I can't move with him. I'm scared, but I can't stay here because if I stay here, he's going to find me and something bad is going to happen. I know that because I know him. I was like, I don't know what else to do. So my mom bought me a plane ticket out to Oregon within like 2 days later before he got back from being out of state. I was on a plane. I didn't tell anybody besides my family. I stayed out here for maybe a month or so and I totally detoxed. It wasn't bad as I think some people have it. I remember laying on my aunt's couch, home alone, everybody was at work and school, and just profusely sweating. And then I'd be freezing cold, and then I'd be cold sweating, and just like a constant battle of constantly sweating. I didn't eat that much. I lost a ton of weight. I didn't get sick, but I just always was sweating. I just remember that part. And I had her pick me up some Tylenol, and I would take a couple of those like throughout the day just to kind of trick my mind into feeling like I was taking something and that I was going to get a high from it. I think that was a huge reason of why my detox felt so mild for what I had been doing. This was like 3 years of just every day, day in and day out, doing multiple Vicodin and usually cocktails mixed with other things. So for my detox to be as easy as it was, like I am so thankful for it. But it also helped knowing that I am 3,000 miles away from being able to even get that. I'm away from everybody that could get me that. If I had stayed in Michigan in my town and was trying to detox, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I wouldn't be here right now. And I knew that the only way is to get myself completely out of that situation. I didn't want to do that anymore because I knew that I was better than that. I was not born to be like that. I didn't come from a family of addiction and problems. I was not raised to be that person. I was meant to do so much more with my life. And it snapped. I woke up, I realized it. And so I'm like, okay, I have to change this. So I did. So after that month of detox here in Oregon, I ended up going back to Michigan and being with my family. I didn't know what else to do. Like I didn't come out here with anything besides like a carry-on suitcase. I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. So my aunt and I made a deal. You go back for the summer, work, save up your money, pack up your things, and come back out here. Let's make it a plan. So, okay, all right, deal. I'm down. Because I had it in my head that this is my last hurrah. This is my last summer being this person. I became an alcoholic that summer, like a bad one. Like people make jokes about being alcoholics, but like it was uncontrollable bad. So that summer, I was a bev cart girl at a really ritzy golf course. I made so much money doing that. And then at night, I worked as a bartender at one of the local bars. It was a terrible bar. I really didn't make that much money, but when I did make money, it was good. So I was constantly working, always working. So I looked at drinking as, well, I deserve it because I'm working so hard. I'm saving up money. I have so much money. So in the mornings before I went to my bev cart job, I would wake up and I had a bottle of Jaeger that I always had in my car. I would take 1 to 2 shots of that right first thing in the morning. I didn't have breakfast. I didn't have anything else besides a couple shots of Jaeger. All right, I'm ready to go. Let's go to work. And then I'd get to work and all these golfers are on vacation. They're partying. They want to party with a young, cute girl too, of course. So they offer me shots. They want to buy me shots. Of course, I'm going to take shots with you guys because then my tip goes up and I get to drink for free. Like, come on. That's such a good deal. So I would constantly be drinking all day long at work. And then I would go bartend. And it was the same situation. People would buy me shots. I would just pour myself shots because I was bored. There was nothing to do. I would probably eat one meal during each of those entire days. It was so unhealthy. I was so skinny. I was tiny. It was horrible. It was so unhealthy. And then that summer, I hooked up with some guys that I had grown up around, and they were all into pills too. So naturally, I was doing pills all summer long too. And I kept saying, well, it's my last hurrah. Like, when the summer's over, I'm done. I'm not going to do it ever again. So when I had that end goal in sight, that's what I did. So I partied fucking hard. It was constantly partying. I saved up money. I saved up like over $5,000 in that one summer, working so much constantly. So I sold my car. I packed up my bags, got on the plane, and flew out here at the end of that summer. I never touched a pill again. I didn't want to. I didn't need it. Like, that's what I mean whenever I say that if I have it in my head that this is the time I'm going to stop, then I do. Like with my vapes, I always said, okay, when this vape runs out, then we're done. I'm done. And that's what I did. You have that end goal in sight and you just follow it and you work through it. You know what's coming and you just quit. So I came out here again and everybody was smoking weed. It's Oregon, especially early 2010s or mid 2010s when weed was really becoming legalized. Everybody was smoking. Pot shops are on every single corner of the street. It's just what people do here. I thought that's what people do here. After I got out here, got situated, got a job and everything, I moved into a house with some roommates and I was smoking weed. I would like ask my friends to buy me weed and I just always had it. Like I would just like go to work. Again, I was working 2 jobs. I was working a morning job and then I would go and work at another fast food place in the evening time. I was pulling really, really long hours. So then in the evenings and my days off, all I wanted to do was relax. And the way that I was relaxing was by smoking weed constantly, like to the point where I would wake up, smoke, roll back over, go back to sleep, wake up, smoke again, roll over, go back to sleep, eventually eat at some point, and then stay in bed, smoke, and go back to sleep. Like I didn't do anything because I was always smoking. That was like, it was fine. It wasn't too bad. I was drinking a lot too. I started dating a guy and our thing was that he would come over to my house before I got out of work and he'd bring me a bottle of champagne and, some orange juice. And then we would have a nice little evening together and then, wake up and do it all the next day. So then I ended up going into basic training because I needed to get out of that. Do you notice a pattern? I always have some drastic way to run away and to get rid of my problems by just running away and doing something else. Went to basic training and then I got discharged because the stupid knee messed up and I had 2 weeks left of basic training. So whatever, it's fine. I went back home to Michigan so that I could go have surgery and my mom could help take care of me. Go to have surgery. I'm sober this whole time, of course, because basic training, sobriety, can't do anything. Find out that I'm pregnant. So sober there for another, 9 months. And for the first like 9 months of her being alive, I was sober. And then I moved back to Oregon because I wanted to be nice and, whatever. Moved back here so that her dad could be with her too. And I became a manager at a restaurant. And the stress that I always had, I was renting my own 1-bedroom apartment, no roommates, no nobody. It was just me, my daughter, and me constantly working. And again, everybody was smoking weed. That's just what you do. So I started smoking weed a lot and a lot more and more and more and more and more. Continued to smoke all the time. I was so dumb, like thinking back on it. Like I don't remember a lot of that time because I was just always so high. So dumb. So that went on for a long time. And then in 2019 was when I joined the industry. That's going to be a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, though. We're not going to dive into that too much. But being in the industry, you're around everybody that smokes. Everybody's drinking. Everybody, at least the people I was around, that's what people did. Life is a big party. Life is a big celebration because, we're all stars. We're all having fun. This is our job, is to have fun. And so I continued to smoke weed constantly all the time. I'd be like driving, rolling up a blunt, driving with my knee. It's crazy. So dumb. So dumb. Drinking, not too bad though. I didn't drink a ton at that time. And then 2021 happened. And I got with a guy. And that was our thing, was to drink and to smoke constantly. Like a fifth of Henny every day, basically. Like it was really bad. And very unhealthy relationship. While I was in the industry, I had tried some other very, very, very hardcore drugs. Very hardcore drugs with some people a few times. Thankfully, I didn't get into those because it could have been really bad because of how good they made me feel. It would have been a very addictive thing. But I knew that if I only do it with this person, or if I only do it with that person, and I don't see them that often, then it's fine. It's not going to become a problem. That's how I controlled it. Not that that's good, but like I still had this like plan of how to control my addictions. So fast forward to 2021 when I was dating the guy, drinking all the time, bad situation. I was the skinniest that I had been since I was 18. I was very stressed. Life was bad. Things were awful. Life was bad. That's all I can say about that. And again, things happened. Things changed. And I packed up my stuff, drove to Michigan to be with my family again. If you notice, in this whole thing, my family has been the people that have been there consistently through everything. And that was a big eye-opener for me is, you can spend all this time with your friends and living these incredible lives, but who's going to be there for you when everything falls apart and when you need help? Family, unless you cut them off or they cut you off. Like, yeah, so that was a big opener for me. Came back to Michigan. I swore that I was never going to drink again. I didn't want to because of how bad things had been. I was still dabbling with weed a little bit, and that's when I started really vaping because I wanted to slow down on weed, but I still needed that feeling of like, a break throughout the day. I was totally sober off drinking. And then I started working at a bar. It was a steakhouse. So, it was good. It was fun. Owners were amazing, great people. It was a great job to have. But, slowly I started drinking a little bit. It wasn't bad. It never had gotten out of control. But, being around it, of course, like your environment, you slowly start becoming part of your environment. So I would slowly start drinking. It wasn't bad though. It was like one or two a night. Not bad. And then one night I decided to go out with one of my friends, and she was a big party girl. And we drank, but I really didn't feel like drunk. I just was like, okay, like it's fine. Got home pretty early, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna just sit in my car. I'm gonna hit my blunt a little bit, and then I'm gonna go inside and go to bed. I hit my blunt, and I went inside, and I sat on my bed. I remember unlocking my phone, and I couldn't do anything else after that. I was like this, like slumped over. I started having a panic attack because I was reliving everything that had happened in the past. Every PTSD moment that I have gone through all came back to me at the same exact time. And I went into my mom's room. I woke her up. I'm like, Mom, can I just make a bed on your floor? I was like, I just don't want to be alone right now. She's like, okay, yeah. Like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I just got to stop freaking out. So I lay down, and then I have to crawl to the bathroom because I feel like I'm going to be sick. I don't remember if I threw up or not, but I do remember telling my mom and my stepdad to please not let me go to sleep because I was afraid I wasn't going to wake up. Like, it was bad. I remember my hands were paralyzed like this. Like, I could not move my hands. They were stuck like this. And I remember my stepdad trying to pry them open, and he couldn't even pry them open. They were just stuck. My mom, this is the part where I don't remember, but this is the part that she's told me, is that they had to call the EMTs to come check on me to make sure I was okay. And I guess they had told her that it was going to be a very long night because they would physically have to put their hand on my chest to make sure that I was breathing and that my heartbeat was going, because everything was just so low. Like, you couldn't tell that I was breathing because it was a shallow breath. My vitals apparently were good, but it was just very shallow. So they just had to, I guess, stay by the side of the bed and just listen and make sure I was okay. And then the next morning I woke up and I went to my bed and I slept for a while, and things were fine. I woke up feeling okay. Freaked out. So I went right to my car where all my weed was, and I threw everything away, and I didn't look back. I did not want to even think about ever being in that type of situation again. So since then, I, like, a couple times I have tried smoking weed a little bit with some good friends while on vacation, where I know that my headspace is good. I feel safe. I feel comfortable. I don't go crazy with it. It would just be like one hit. But even that, the couple times I've done it, hasn't been really that enjoyable for me. I'm just over it now. Like, it's just so not who I am anymore. And the last time I even tried it was probably almost 2 years ago now. Like, it's been a really long time since I've even tried it again. Yeah. So once I quit smoking weed, I did begin to drink more, and I began to smoke my nicotine more. And again, while I was in Michigan, it wasn't bad. My addictions were all at bay. Like, things were okay. And then I moved back to Oregon by myself again, where I have, nobody telling me no, and I don't have an image to uphold. It's not like, I walk downstairs to pour myself a drink and there's my mom saying, should you do that? Like, it's me, it's my house, it's my rules, it's my everything. So if I want to, I'm going to. And, with this job that I do with caregiving, there comes a lot of stress and a lot of worry, and it's draining to constantly be taking care of people, knowing what the end game is. And that first year that I had worked with my company, I lost 3 clients, and every single time I wasn't there. 2 of my clients died in the same week while I was out of town visiting Michigan for my summer break. And then the third client, I lost just on a whim. I got a phone call, hey, they're gone, so don't worry about coming in on Monday. So, there was a lot of that back to back to back. It was a lot. And so, that was my reward at the end of the day is I get home, I've had this really complicated, tough day. So I get to have a drink of wine. I get to have a drink of beer. I want to relive being a bartender because I'm a certified bartender and I miss that. So I'm just going to make myself some drinks at home and enjoy that and, not lose that part of me. And, any excuse that you can think of, I had for every decision. And, the whole time I'm still vaping and everything. So, yeah. So that was almost 2 years of drinking every single day. And I noticed it starting to get a lot worse when I was losing control of my, my OF sites. I was losing the passion to want to do it, but I felt like I had to do it to be able to stay relevant and to be able to continue making money. But I didn't want to anymore, but I felt like I had to. So I would drink before I had to record anything. I would drink before I had to go live. I would drink, during my lives, anything to make me feel numb because I didn't want to do it. And I knew I needed to put on this persona of I'm so cool, I'm so fun, I'm still that same Leah that you guys know from, 2019 and 2020. It's still me. So I would keep drinking and drinking and drinking. And I would hang out with certain people and I would hide it from them that I was actually as drunk as I was. I would go in the bathroom and I'd have to silently throw up because I didn't want them to be like, oh my God, this chick's throwing up. So I would have to hide that from them. And, there's that point where it's this isn't even fun anymore. This is not, the fun kind of drinking. This is the bad kind of drinking. And I kept saying okay, I need to stop. I need to stop. I need to stop. But then I couldn't stop and I didn't want to stop. And I found something else that, would make me want to drink again because I'm so stressed out again. So then when I said, okay, I'm going to start a fitness journey at the end of the summer, I'm going to really see if I can change things and be healthier because right now I'm still that same person that I was. It's a different type of substance, but I'm still that same person of sitting on my couch or laying in my bed and not wanting to do anything and having no motivation, having barely any friends, having no purpose of life. And I wanted that to change. So with the fitness journey, I said, okay, let's just work at it and see what I can do. I wanted it to be a part of my own personal journey, but I didn't plan on making it a part of the public journey until the day that I recorded that very first video. And when I sat down and I started talking, I was like, oh yeah, and I think I'm gonna eventually try to, stop drinking and eventually try to stop smoking. And I didn't really make it a thing because I felt like I was going to fail and I didn't want to be embarrassed publicly for it. Because a lot of people don't understand addiction. They don't understand how hard it is. But as soon as I said it out loud, I'm like, okay, shit, now I gotta actually follow through with this. Great, this is gonna be embarrassing. And I started owning it more because I realized everybody has some type of addiction, whether it's, you're addicted to food, you're addicted to your phone, you're addicted to alcohol or drugs or weed or driving fast or sex or money or anything. We are all hooked on something that changes our views of life. It alters how we are. It controls us to an extent, but nobody really talks about it. And so for me to have my counters every week of this is how many days that I haven't drank. This is how many days I haven't smoked. It's, it holds me accountable, and it makes me actually think about it. Is this worth it? I have to post this publicly for everybody because that's what I have chosen to do. Is, this person over here that's vaping right next to me, is it worth it if I ask them if I can hit a vape? No, it's not, because now I'm at the point where I've hit over 100 days of not smoking, and it's been pretty easy. I don't want to go back and try and see how it goes because it's probably going to be bad. I don't ever want to touch a pain pill again. Speaking of that, so when I had my hip surgery, which again, we'll get to that in a different video, it's a whole nother can of worms. And when I had my wisdom tooth removals, I did 2 on this side and then 2 on that side at a different time. So 2 surgeries for my wisdom teeth and then my hip surgery. I was so afraid of having pain pills around me that I ended up refusing. I had to sign a waiver saying that I refused pain pills. My doctor that did my hip surgery, he's like, listen, this is probably going to be the most painful surgery that you've ever had. This is going to be really bad if you don't have pain pills. Like, everybody gets pain pills. I can't, because if you give me a bottle of pain pills, they will not be gone over the course of the next month. They will be gone over the course of 2 days. I don't want that. I have come so far. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to know what that feeling is like again. And so I recovered from a fat transfer, hip surgery, liposuction without any pain pills. It was horrible. It was horrible. A horrible, horrible pain. But, Tylenol and Motrin, ibuprofen, you just figure it out. I mean, at least I wasn't high and groggy the whole time. I was awake and alive. Yeah. So that's why when I officially quit vaping, why it was so hard for me at first. Because all of these years, it's been, pain pills, but I can smoke weed, drinking and smoking. And then, okay, I'm not drinking anymore, but I'm still smoking. Okay, I'm not smoking anymore, but I'm still drinking. And then all of that together. I'm not smoking, but I'm smoking nicotine and drinking. So when I quit drinking this last time, I still had my nicotine to fall back on. It was still that satisfaction. It gave you that high that made you feel good. And so when it came down to stopping nicotine, I'm like, I have nothing left. I felt so empty. I didn't know what to do. It was really, really, really hard, because normally I would have fallen back onto one of my other addictions. I would have, drank instead to make me feel better. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I feel tired now after talking about all of that. So that's why sobriety is so important to me. And I say this in all of my videos all the time, is yes, I still, will have a drink, maybe once every 4 weeks, once every 6 weeks, occasionally with dinner or something. I always count it and I always track it so that I am still held accountable and I can still think about why I did it and when, and see how long I can go. Because once I stop counting it and tracking it, I think that's when it can go bad again. I'm not holding myself accountable, so I might as well just have a drink tonight, have a drink tomorrow. Oh, I might as well have one on Saturday too. Why not? I don't think it would ever get to that point again, but it could, and I don't want it to, and I don't want to risk it. So just being held accountable constantly. I beat myself up about it is because I just want to live a sober life and not not be influenced by addictions. And, like I want to see life like as it is and not be clouded by, my choices that I've made. And I don't know. Why am I crying? ah, yeah. So that's all. That's why I beat myself up, is because it's like, oh yeah, I'm having, one drink when, I went out to dinner with one of my friends, or yeah, I had a drink with, this guy when I went on a date. But it's like, that still altered my feelings and my perception of everything around me. Even if it's just a small buzz, I still don't feel everything as purely as I would if I was sober. And I can see that now. So yeah, sometimes it's fun to get a little crazy and let loose, but think of how much it changes your thoughts and your feelings about everything in that moment. So yeah. So that's why I feel so strongly about sobriety in this fitness journey, because it's been 12 years, almost 13 years of just, no, yeah, 13 years. It's been 13 years of fighting addictions and struggling through it and making bad decisions based on my addictions. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So now my addictions are drinking my protein shakes in the morning, right when my feet hit the floor. My addictions are having sweat and chasing the sweat when I am working out and doing cardio. My addictions are sitting in the sauna and sweating every impurity that I have had in me for the last 13 years come out, sweat through my pores. It is being able to breathe clearly and not have a tight knot in my chest because of smoking. It's knowing that my liver is healing because it doesn't have all the toxins in it that it used to have. And it's just, I don't know, seeing things clearly and feeling things, no matter how strong of feeling it is, I still feel things better than I would have. And I can think clearly and not emotionally and aggressively. So, wow. Okay, I told you guys this was probably going to be a long video. I'm sorry. I hope you guys enjoyed it though, hearing more about my backstory. There's more to be said though, but we'll save that for another day because right now I am very drained. So, yeah. So I guess with that, I will hopefully see you in the next video. Hopefully I didn't freak you out too much today. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.